There is something about pulling up to your old house that never gets easier. I sat in my beat-up Honda Accord staring at the front door of what used to be my home. It was a Saturday afternoon and I was there to pick up my daughter Lily for our weekend together. But something felt different today. There were several cars parked in the driveway. Laughter echoed from inside. I had no idea that in the next 20 minutes everything would change. Before I tell you what happened inside that house, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop a comment below and let me know your city or country. And if you have not already, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you are going to want to hear how this story ends. Because what Derek and his friends did not know about me, well, it cost them everything. But first, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me help you understand how I ended up here sitting in this old car, about to walk into a room full of people who thought I was nobody. My name is Carl, and 10 years ago I met a woman named Lauren at a coffee shop in Austin, Texas. I was 25 years old, fresh off quitting my job as a software developer at a major tech company. I had savings, a dream, and absolutely no idea how hard the next few years would be. Lauren was 23, just out of college, working her first marketing job. She had this energy about her, this warmth that made me feel like anything was possible. We started talking about our dreams that day. I told her I wanted to build my own company, something that would change people's lives. Most people would have laughed or given me that polite smile that says they think you are crazy. But Lauren leaned in closer and said, "I believe in you more than anyone, Carl. Go build something amazing." Those words meant everything to me. We fell in love fast and hard. 2 years later, we got married in a small ceremony with family and close friends. Our first year together was beautiful. We lived in a tiny apartment, barely making ends meet. I worked from home coding until 3 in the morning, chasing investor meetings during the day. Lauren worked her 9 to 5 and came home with takeout and encouragement. Then Lily came along. I still remember the moment I held her for the first time. She was so small, so perfect. Her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb, and I made a silent promise to her. I would build something. I would become someone she could be proud of. I would give her the world. But dreams do not pay bills. My first startup failed after 8 months. The second one lasted a year before running out of funding. The third one never even got off the ground. 3 years of trying, and I had nothing to show for it except credit card debt and a wife who was growing more tired by the day. Lauren changed during those years. The woman who once believed in me started looking at me differently. I would catch her scrolling through social media, pausing on posts from her friends whose husbands had corporate jobs and nice cars and vacation photos. She never said anything directly at first, but the sighs got louder. The silences got longer. One night she finally said it. "Carl, maybe it is time to give up. Get a real job. Something stable. I cannot keep being the only one holding this family together." I told her I was close. I told her the next idea would work. I told her to just give me a little more time. She shook her head slowly. "I have been giving you time for 3 years. I cannot keep waiting for a dream that might never come true." That was when Derek entered our lives. He was a client at Lauren's company, some kind of manager at a tech firm. He was everything I was not at that moment: stable, successful, confident. Lauren started mentioning him casually at first. "Derek said the funniest thing today. Derek got promoted again. Derek thinks the market is going to shift." I noticed the changes. She started coming home later. She smiled more at her phone than at me. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was being paranoid. But late one night, when she fell asleep on the couch, her phone buzzed. I should not have looked, but I did. The message was from Derek. "I had a great time tonight. You make me feel things I have not felt in years." Her reply underneath, "You make me feel safe." I forgot what that felt like. It was not a physical affair. Not yet, maybe. But it was a betrayal that cut deeper than anything physical could have. She had given her heart to someone else while I was sitting in the next room still fighting for our future. I confronted her the next morning. She did not deny it. She did not even seem sorry. "I am not happy, Carl," she said. "I have not been happy for years. Derek makes me feel like a priority. You make me feel like an afterthought." I begged her to try, to go to counseling, to give me one more chance. But her bags were already mentally packed. The divorce was brutal. Lauren had the stable job, the income, the suitable home environment. I had nothing but failed business plans and a broken heart. The court gave her primary custody of Lily. I got weekends. Every other weekend I would pick up my daughter, hold her tight, and pretend my world was not falling apart. Lily was 4 years old when her parents split up. She did not understand why Daddy did not live with them anymore. She would ask me every time I dropped her off, "Daddy, why cannot you stay?" I would kneel down, look into her eyes, and say, "Daddy will always be here for you no matter what. I promise." That promise became my fuel. After Lauren left, something shifted inside me. I had nothing left to lose. I threw myself into work with a desperation I had never felt before. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating properly. I coded and planned and pitched until my fingers ached and my voice went hoarse. 6 months after the divorce, I secured my first real investment. A venture capital firm believed in my vision for a new kind of software platform. 1 year later, Meridian Tech was born. 2 years after that, we had over 500 employees and contracts with major corporations across the country. I became wealthy beyond anything I had ever imagined. But I made a choice early on. I stayed invisible. No press interviews, no magazine covers, no public appearances. The world knew Meridian Tech, but almost no one knew Carl Mercer. I hired a public relations team specifically to keep my face out of the media. Only my executive team and a handful of trusted employees knew what their CEO looked like. Why did I do this? Because I had learned something painful during my marriage. People treat you differently based on what they think you are worth. I wanted to be judged by my character, not my bank account. I wanted to know who my real friends were. So I kept driving my old Honda. I kept wearing simple clothes. I kept living in a modest apartment. And I never told Lauren. She had no idea that the man she left for being a failure had become more successful than Derek could ever dream of being. Which brings me back to that Saturday afternoon. I walked up to the front door of my old house and knocked. Lauren opened it with an annoyed expression. "You are early," she said flatly. "Traffic was light," I replied. She stepped aside and I walked into the living room. There were 5 or 6 people gathered around the dining table, drinks in hand, laughter filling the air. Some kind of casual party. And there was Derek. He stood up from the head of the table like he owned the place, which I suppose he thought he did now. He walked over to me with a smile that did not reach his eyes and extended his hand. "Hey, Carl, come on in, buddy. We are just having a little get-together." I shook his hand briefly. His grip was deliberately too firm, the kind of handshake men use when they want to establish dominance. Derek turned to the room and gestured at me. "Everyone, this is Carl, Lauren's ex." The way he said ex made my skin crawl, like I was a piece of furniture Lauren had upgraded from. A man at the table, someone I did not recognize, looked me up and down. "So what do you do, Carl?" Before I could answer, Derek laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. "Carl here is between opportunities. Right, buddy?" Soft chuckles rippled through the room. I felt their eyes on me, measuring me, finding me lacking. I kept my voice steady. "I am just here for my daughter." Derek settled back into his chair like a king returning to his throne. He grabbed his beer and took a long sip, watching me over the rim. "Have a seat, Carl. Lily is still getting her stuff together. Might as well hang out for a minute." I did not want to stay. Every instinct told me to wait by the door. But something made me sit down on the edge of the couch, away from the main group. Maybe I wanted to see who these people really were when they thought no one important was watching. Derek launched into a monologue almost immediately. "Man, work has been absolutely insane lately. Meridian Tech is blowing up. You guys have no idea." One of his friends, a guy with slicked back hair and an expensive watch, nodded eagerly. "Dude, I heard they are about to go public. We are going to be rich." Another man, younger with a cocky grin, chimed in. "Best decision I ever made joining that company. The CEO is a genius, whoever he is. Nobody even knows what he looks like." I sat very still. They were talking about my company, my life's work, and they had no idea I was sitting 3 feet away from them. Derek puffed up his chest. "I am up for a promotion next month. Regional director, 6 figures easy. Maybe I will finally get a meeting with the big boss himself." He turned to me with a smirk that made my stomach tighten. "What about you, Carl? Any job prospects on the horizon?" I met his gaze. "I am working on a few things." Derek snorted. "Yeah, you have been working on things for years, right? How is that going for you?" His friends laughed. Not polite chuckles this time, real laughter at my expense. The man with the expensive watch leaned forward. His name was Marcus, I would learn later. "Seriously though, Carl, no offense, but do you not feel weird? Your ex-wife is living in this nice house, her new husband is killing it at work, and you are, what's still figuring things out?" My jaw tightened. "I am doing fine." Marcus exchanged a look with the others. Sure, man, sure. The younger one, Tyler, looked me up and down with undisguised contempt. Nice jacket, by the way. Is that from what, 2015? More laughter. I was wearing the jacket Lily had picked out for me at a thrift store last year. She said it made me look like a superhero. Derek stood up and walked over to me, beer in hand. He put his free hand on my shoulder in a gesture that was meant to look friendly but felt like a claim of territory. Look, Carl, I am not trying to be mean here. I am just saying, maybe it is time to give up the dream, get a real job. Be a man. He paused, glancing toward the hallway where the bedrooms were. Lily deserves a stable father figure, someone she can look up to, someone who can actually provide for her. The implication hung in the air like poison. He was saying Lily had him now. She did not need me. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to tell him exactly who I was and watch the color drain from his face. But that was not the moment. Not with Lily in the next room. Not like this. So I sat there. I let the insults wash over me. And I waited. Then I heard her voice. Daddy. Lily came running out of her room, her little backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Her face lit up the moment she saw me, and she threw herself into my arms. Hey, sweetheart, I whispered, holding her tight. Ready for our adventure? She nodded against my chest. I have been waiting all week. For a moment the room disappeared. It was just me and my daughter, and nothing else mattered. Then Derek ruined it. He turned to his friends with a theatrical sigh. Adorable, right? Too bad her daddy cannot even afford to take her anywhere nice. Marcus laughed. Maybe McDonald's. Lily pulled back from my hug, her little face confused and hurt. Daddy takes me to the park, she said quietly. I like the park. Derek crouched down to her level, his voice dripping with false sweetness. Sweetie, Uncle Derek will take you to Disneyland someday. Would that not be better than some old park? Lily grabbed my hand and squeezed it. I want to go with Daddy. Something flickered across Derek's face. Annoyance, maybe, or wounded pride. He straightened up and looked at me with cold eyes. At least Lily has a real man in her life now, someone who can actually provide for her. The room went silent. Even his friends seemed to realize he had crossed a line. I looked down at Lily. She was staring up at me with wide eyes, not understanding why the adults were being so mean to her father. That was my breaking point. Not the insults to me, I could take those. But seeing my daughter's confusion and pain, that was something I would not tolerate. I stood up slowly, keeping Lily's hand in mine. We are leaving. Lauren appeared from the kitchen doorway, frowning. Carl, do not be so sensitive. They were just joking around. I did not look at her. I will bring her back Sunday evening. I walked to the door. Lily's hand trembled slightly in mine. She could feel the tension even if she did not understand it. Derek called after us, his voice mocking. Hey, Carl, good luck with the job hunt. His friends burst into laughter as I closed the door behind us. In the car, my hands shook slightly as I started the engine. Lily watched me from her car seat with worried eyes. Daddy, why were they laughing at you? I took a deep breath, then another. Sometimes people laugh because they do not understand, sweetheart. But that is okay. It does not change who we are. She thought about this for a moment. I do not like Uncle Derek. I reached back and squeezed her knee gently. I know, baby. I know. As I pulled away from that house, my mind was already working. I remembered every face. Derek, Marcus, Tyler. They all worked at Meridian Tech. They all worked for me. And they had no idea what they had just done. I spent the rest of that weekend focused entirely on Lily. We went to our favorite park, the one with the big oak tree she liked to climb. We got ice cream from the little shop on Maple Street. I read her 3 bedtime stories instead of 2 because she asked so nicely. Sunday night, after I dropped her off at Lauren's house, I drove home in silence. But my mind was far from quiet. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and a cold wind. I stood in front of my closet looking at the rows of simple shirts and worn jeans I usually wore to work. Today would be different. I pulled out a black suit I had not worn in months, a gray tie, polished leather shoes. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. This was not the invisible CEO who slipped in through side entrances. This was someone ready to be seen. I drove to Meridian Tech's headquarters, a gleaming 20-story building downtown that I had watched rise from blueprints to reality. Usually I parked in the underground garage and took a private elevator. Today I walked through the main entrance. The receptionist looked up with a practiced smile. "Good morning, sir. Can I help you?" She did not recognize me. Almost no one did. "I am going up," I said simply, walking past her to the executive elevator. I rode up to the top floor alone, watching the city shrink beneath me through the glass walls. 2,000 employees worked in this building. Most of them had never seen my face. That was about to change, at least for 3 of them. Sandra, my executive assistant, was waiting when the doors opened. She had been with me since the early days, one of the few people who knew everything. Her eyebrows rose slightly at my appearance. "Mr. Mercer, you look different today." "Sandra, I need you to arrange a meeting, immediately." I handed her a piece of paper with 3 names written on it: Derek Lawson, Marcus Webb, Tyler Nguyen. She glanced at the names, then back at me. She did not ask why. That was one of the things I appreciated about Sandra. She trusted that I had my reasons. "Conference room B," she said. "How much time do you need?" 15 minutes. She nodded and picked up her phone. I walked to my office and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows looking out at the city I had helped build. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably at his desk bragging about his upcoming promotion. Marcus was probably making plans for how he would spend his stock options. Tyler was probably mocking some other person he deemed beneath him. 15 minutes later, Sandra appeared at my door. "They are ready for you, sir." I buttoned my jacket and walked down the hall to conference room B. Through the glass walls, I could see them sitting around the polished table. Derek was laughing at something Marcus had said. Tyler was checking his phone. They had no idea why they were here. I opened the door and stepped inside. At first, none of them looked up. They were too busy with their own conversation. So I told him, Derek was saying, "If you want to close deals like me, you have to..." He trailed off as he finally noticed me standing at the head of the table. For a moment, confusion flickered across his face. Then recognition began to dawn. Slowly, painfully. "Do I know you?" he asked, his voice uncertain. I smiled slightly. "We have met, Saturday afternoon, at your house." The color drained from Derek's face like water from a bathtub. Marcus and Tyler looked between us, not yet understanding. Derek's mouth opened and closed several times. You are Carl Mercer," I said calmly, "founder and CEO of Meridian Tech." The silence that followed was absolute. I watched as the realization hit each of them. Derek looked like he might be sick. Marcus had gone pale beneath his tan. Tyler's cocky expression had crumbled into something close to terror. "This is some kind of joke, right?" Derek managed to whisper. I walked slowly to the laptop at the end of the table and opened it. With a few clicks, I projected 3 employee files onto the large screen on the wall. Derek Lawson, Senior Account Manager, 6 years with the company. Performance reviews adequate at best. I scrolled down. Marcus Webb, Sales Associate, 4 years. Consistent, but unremarkable. I clicked again. Tyler Nguyen, Jr. Developer, 2 years. Shows potential, but lacks professionalism. Derek stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Mr. Mercer, I had no idea. If I had known..." "Of course you did not know," I interrupted calmly. "That was the point." I closed the laptop and looked at each of them in turn. "But let us not pretend this is about identity. This is about character." I focused on Derek, holding his gaze until he looked away. "You mocked a man in front of his 7-year-old daughter. You laughed at someone you believed was beneath you. You told a child that her father was not a real man." "I was just..." Derek's voice cracked. "It was just jokes. I did not mean..." "Was it because from where I stood it looked like cruelty?" I turned to Marcus and Tyler. "And you two participated eagerly. You saw someone being humiliated and you joined in." Neither of them could meet my eyes. "Meridian Tech has core values," I continued. "Respect, integrity, empathy. They are not just words on a wall. They are the foundation of everything we have built. And you violated all 3. I reached into my jacket and pulled out 3 envelopes. I slid them across the table, one to each man. "Your employment is terminated effective immediately." Derek grabbed the envelope like it might explode. "You cannot do this. This is personal revenge." I shook my head slowly. "No, Derek. This is business. I do not want people like you representing my company to clients, to colleagues, to anyone." Marcus found his voice, though it trembled. "Mr. Mercer, please, I have a family. A mortgage. I cannot. So do I said quietly. And you laughed at me in front of her. Derek tried one last desperate angle. Please, Lauren, think about Lauren. This will destroy her. She will. Lauren made her choice years ago. I cut him off. This has nothing to do with her. This is about who you are as a person, and I have seen enough. I pressed a button on the conference phone. Sandra, please send security to conference room B. Derek's face contorted with fury. You will regret this. I will sue. I will go to the press. You will do whatever you feel you need to do, I said, walking toward the door. But Derek, next time you decide to judge someone's worth, maybe wait until you know who they actually are. I left the room without looking back. Behind me, I could hear Derek shouting, Marcus pleading Tyler, saying nothing at all. Security would handle the rest. I walked to the elevator and stepped inside. As the doors closed, I caught my reflection in the polished metal. I looked tired. But for the first time in years, I also looked at peace. That evening, my phone rang. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Hello? What did you do? Her voice was shaking with anger. Derek just got fired. He came home in shock. He said, you are the CEO, is that true? Yes. Silence. Then, how long have you been? Since about a year after the divorce. More silence. I could hear her breathing, processing. This is revenge, Carl. Pure revenge. You ruined his life because of what happened Saturday. I leaned back in my chair. No, Lauren. Revenge would be destroying his career entirely, making sure he never works in this industry again. I just removed him from my company. What he does next is up to him. I cannot believe this. Her voice was quieter now, the anger giving way to something else. I did not know. All this time, I did not know you had... You never asked Lauren. You decided I was a failure and you left. You never looked back to see if anything had changed. She was crying now. I could hear it. Part of me felt something, some old echo of the love we once shared. But it was distant, like a memory of a memory. I am sorry, Carl, she whispered. For everything. Take care of yourself, Lauren. I hung up. The days that followed were strange. Derek and his friends tried to make noise, threatened lawsuits, contacted journalists. But there was nothing to report. A CEO had fired employees for violating company values. It happened every day in corporate America. Life moved on. I went back to my routine, back to my invisible existence, back to what mattered. The next Saturday, I pulled up to Lauren's house to pick up Lily. This time, there were no extra cars in the driveway, no sounds of a party, just quiet. Lauren opened the door. She looked different somehow, older, tired, but also more real than she had seemed in years. Hi, Carl, she said softly. Hi, Lauren. She stepped aside and Lily came running out, her backpack already on her face, bright with excitement. Daddy! I scooped her up and held her close. Over her shoulder, I saw Lauren watching us with an expression I could not quite read. Carl, she said as I turned to leave. I really am sorry, for everything. I nodded. I know. In the car, Lily chattered happily about her week. Then she paused and looked at me seriously. Daddy, Mommy said Uncle Derek moved away. Is that true? I considered how to answer. Sometimes people need to go somewhere else, sweetie, to learn things, to grow. She thought about this. I am not sad he is gone. I like it better when it is just you and me. I smiled. Me too, baby. Me too. We went for ice cream that afternoon at the same little shop on Maple Street. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Just a father and his daughter sharing a sundae and talking about everything and nothing. Lily looked up at me with ice cream on her nose. Daddy, you are the best daddy in the whole world. I wiped her nose with a napkin and kissed her forehead. And you are the best daughter in the whole universe. That night, after I brought her home and drove back to my apartment, I sat by the window for a long time. The city glittered below me, full of people chasing dreams and running from failures. I thought about Derek and what he was doing right now. Probably updating his resume, probably blaming me for his problems, probably learning nothing at all. But that was not my burden to carry anymore. I thought about Lauren and the life we might have had if things had been different. But there was no point in that. The past was a country I could not revisit. I thought about Lily and the promise I made to her when she was born. I had kept it. I had become someone she could be proud of. Not because of money or success, but because I had never given up on being her father. The best revenge is not showing people how wrong they were about you. It is not rubbing their faces in your success. It is not making them suffer the way they made you suffer. The best revenge is simply becoming the person they never believed you could be. And then moving on, without anger, without bitterness, just peace. Some people will never see your worth no matter what you achieve, and that is okay. Their opinion was never the point. The right people will always see you for who you really are. As for Derek, I hope he learns something from what happened. I hope he becomes a better person. I hope he treats the next struggling father he meets with a little more compassion. But either way, that is not my problem anymore. I have got a daughter to raise, and that is all that matters. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who thought they knew your whole story? Have you ever stayed quiet when you could have spoken up waiting for the right moment? Drop a comment below and tell me about it. I would love to hear your story. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear this today. And if you have not subscribed yet, join our community. We share stories like this every week, stories about resilience, about redemption, about becoming the person you were always meant to be. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, your worth is not determined by what others think of you. It is determined by who you choose to become. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.